Every time you type a question into an AI chatbot, something invisible happens behind the screen. Your words get broken apart, chopped into tiny fragments, fed into a machine that reads them one piece at a time. Those fragments have a name. They're called tokens. And right now, on the other side of the world, tokens have quietly become one of the most talked about ideas in the global economy. Not oil, not chips, not even the models themselves. Tokens. Here's the story most people are missing. A government agency in China started measuring publicly how much of this tiny fragment its AI systems process. And when officials stood up and shared that figure out loud, the room went quiet. Because the figure wasn't just large, it was almost unbelievable. A curve so steep it barely looks real on a chart. Starting from something so small, it was practically a rounding error and rocketing into a scale that now dwarfs anything else on the planet. So naturally, the headlines wrote themselves. China has overtaken the world in artificial intelligence. But that's not quite the real story. The real story is stranger and honestly more interesting. Because when researchers went looking for where all these tokens were actually coming from, the public AI platforms, the ones developers and businesses use every day, could only account for a small slice of the total. The rest was a mystery, until one company quietly admitted the truth. A single consumer app built for short-form video was responsible for the overwhelming majority of the entire national total. Not enterprise software, not scientific research, not even chatbots. Every time someone asks an AI to dream up a clip, a face that moves, a scene that shifts, a voice that speaks, that single request can burn through more of these tiny fragments than a mountain of ordinary text conversation combined. Pair that with an entertainment platform carrying an enormous audience, and you get an economic anomaly, a single application, quietly outproducing entire industries. But there's a second layer to this story, and it's the one that should actually make you pause. Beneath the flashy video figures, something quieter is happening. Companies, banks, factories, telecom giants, and hospitals are building their own private AI systems, feeding them internal data and folding them into daily operations. These systems don't show up on any public leaderboard. Nobody's tracking them in real time. But researchers studying this shift believe this quiet, invisible layer might matter more than the headline figure ever will, because the flashy statistic tells you how much is being used. It doesn't tell you whether any of it is actually working. And that's where this story gets its twist. Some of the very same researchers who uncovered where all these tokens were coming from are now raising a warning. They point to an old idea in economics. Once a number becomes a target, people start chasing the number instead of the outcome it was supposed to represent. Which means, somewhere inside that staggering total, there are bots talking to other bots. Automated systems negotiating with automated systems. Machines generating content nobody watches, just to keep the figure climbing. Volume went up, but nobody can say with certainty that value went up with it. So what does all of this actually tell us? It tells us that the fight for AI dominance isn't only about who builds the smartest model anymore. It's about who can make people use it, constantly, instinctively, at a scale that reshapes how an entire population interacts with machines. and it raises an uncomfortable question worth sitting with. If the most powerful economies in the world start measuring progress by how much their machines are talking to us and increasingly to each other, what exactly will we end up counting further down the road? The machines are talking. The question is whether we are listening.